Hi, welcome. My name is Lexi. It's good to have you here. I hope that you guys are all having just a wonderful conclusion to your summer, which, let me remind you, is almost over. It's almost September. That's a statement that makes me want to throw up in my mouth. I turned 23 in September. Current life update, I've spent this month in a state of chronic panic. It's just been a really tumultuous time in my life. I have that cool girl trait that only the hottest people have, where major life transitions just make me want to throw myself out of a window. And I just graduated college, which, nice, very exciting. Let's be honest with ourselves. I was very done with it by the time it was over. But I moved back home this month for an indeterminate amount of time. Nobody knows how long. Basically just until I figure out answers to all of my existential questions of what I'm expected to do with myself in my future now that I can't just get all of my dopamine and validation from my academic career. And honestly, what I want to do in my heart right now is just rot in a dark room for like 5 to 10 business days. But you know what? We have important shit to discuss, okay? And there's nobody in this world I would rather be here with than you. So in the spirit of general life instability and my current mental health crisis, I have picked out a list of very chaotically different books that I plan on reading during this season of my life. Some of them are like loosely fall themed in the way that it can be fun to read certain tropes and themes as the leaves start changing and the weather gets cooler and the girlies of the world naturally just start to seek coziness and all that we do. But let's be honest with ourselves, I don't know how to be anything other than what I am, and what I am is a girl with a reading taste that makes absolutely no discernible amount of sense. I'm just showing you what's in my heart right now, okay? These are the books that my inner soul wants me to read. They're like the priority titles for my reptile brain. Yep. Let's get started. The Secret History. Am I the last person on the planet, in this world, in this universe, to read this book? Yes. Yes, I am. If you don't know who she is, if you've never met her, this is what I would call a canonical text in the dark academia community. And it follows this guy who goes to college and ends up in this weird academic society that is a club, but it's also all of his classes, kind of a small liberal arts thing. And he's in this small group studying alongside these just really pretentious, weird, rich people. And the hook of the book is that there ends up being a murder at some point, I think. It's a mystery, probably. Honestly, I don't really know, okay? Like, I've been avoiding spoilers for this book for the past 5 years, and the back truly just gives you nothing. Anyways, I feel like this is the kind of book that most people would have expected me to read already, just by my vibe. And I regret to inform you that you have been bamboozled. I'm actually just kind of stupid and not well read at all. But we are working on it, okay? I think there's a good chance that I'll do some kind of like dark academia reading vlog this fall. Kind of a back to school thing for me, you know, now that I'll never go back to school again. You know, I gotta relive that nostalgia somehow, as if I have anything in common with the people in this book. As if I've ever been to a boarding school. As if I've ever joined a secret society. But if I end up doing that video, this will definitely be there, so look out for that. Babel. Staying on theme, next we have Babel. I'm nothing if not the #1 fan of R.F. Kuang and like the entire Milky Way. I think I've given every book that I've read by her either 4.5 or 5 stars. She is just like offensively competent. Like, keep it to yourself, okay? Except don't, because I will be snorting everything that you write until the day that we both die. So thank God that we're around the same age. This is a standalone historical fiction / fantasy book that follows this guy in the mid-1800s who goes to university to study a type of magic that is tied directly to translation between languages, which is really interesting already. I find linguistics to be just absolutely fascinating. But thematically, this book deals with colonization of lands, but also of culture. And it seems to be kind of an exploration of who writes our history books and why that matters. And just a bunch of themes that, me personally, I find to be fascinating. Also, yes, I did receive this as an ARC. And yes, I haven't read it, even though Rebecca's one of my favorite authors. I don't know what I'm doing either, okay? Don't expect me to explain it to you. I read like purely by vibes and just by the atmosphere in my life at the time. The set and the setting and the time just have not been right yet for this book, but hopefully it will be soon. The Last House on Needless Street. I can't remember where I picked up on the recommendation to read this. I feel like at just some point in the last year and a half, I just downloaded it into my brain. But I saw it at one of the 50% off tables at Barnes & Noble at some point this summer, and I scooped it right up. This is kind of my obligatory October pumpkin carving, skeletons, creepy, scary energy vibe book. It's about this super fucked up family that's just this amnesiac dad, this creepy little girl, and this kind of literate, maybe sentient cat, and they all live together at this little house at the end of a dead-end street, and the book, to my knowledge, is just about all of the weird things that they get up to after dark. I think it's meant to be a thriller as well as a horror book, and Stephen King said that this shredded his nerves, which I'm not completely sure what that's supposed to mean, but it sure is something, I feel like, especially coming from him. So yeah, this is my screaming, crying, throwing up book, and I'll probably read it at night against my better judgment. The Shades of Magic trilogy. I have a confession to make, and it might change how you see me. I'm hoping that you're going to be able to look past it with everything that we've been through together, but I did not like Addie LaRue. I found it to be such an interesting premise, but the execution was just kind of boring. I did not like how childish the main character was. I did not like how nothing felt like it mattered. I don't know, okay? It just didn't work for me, but I feel like that book genuinely like changed lives based on the vibes that I get from the girls on social media, so I respect that. I'm happy that it could for so many people, but it did not for me. And I've accrued slowly at used bookstores like 6 more books by V.E. Schwab, and all of them have just really fascinating premises, but I've been afraid to start any of them because that's how I felt about the premise Daddy LaRue, and it let me down so like horrifically bad. But you know what? We give second chances in this house. If Ruth Ware has gotten and squandered like 5 chances to knock my socks off, Victoria can have at least 1 more. And it feels like the right time for this because I know that there's another series that's coming out right now that's set in the same world as this, and I always just want nothing more for my life than to be a part of the moment, so here we are. Plot-wise, if you've never heard of her, this series follows some magicians who are able to travel between alternate universe versions of London. Some magical, some drab, some like apocalyptically destroyed, and these magicians do so kind of as ambassadors and peacekeepers and messengers. And Kel, our main character, is also a smuggler, just in addition to all of his other jobs, you know, just get you a man who can do it all. And smuggling just ends up getting him into some dangerous stuff, which is, to my knowledge, where the plot of this book kind of takes off. I don't know, just again, it sounds really interesting. I want to love the Schwab so bad. Like, I want to be a fan. I want to be cool. I want to be one of the girls. But it's up to this trilogy. Okay, we're gonna see what happens. The Glass Castle. I'm on record as a memoir stan. A lot of my favorite books are memoirs. I'm probably going to do a longer form video sometime soon on my favorite memoirs because I do consider myself to be something of an aficionado. I don't know, I just love reading about suffering, you know? Like, I don't know what it is. Like, fiction is obviously great. It's most of what I read, but it is just so uniquely inspirational to hear stories of resilience that come from real people who seem to be just like me. Most of the time, they're not celebrities. And I feel like the average memoir is like 10 times more likely to make me cry than the average book. Anyways, I made a TikTok recently about some of my favorite memoirs, and this was the #1 recommendation from my comments that I had not already read. And I plan on fixing that, like, immediately. This is about a girl who grows up in a dysfunctional family that is just torn apart by alcoholism and kind of like absentee parenting, and it's about the relationships that were forged as a result between all of the siblings in order to survive. By vibe alone, it reminds me a little bit of Educated by Tara Westover, which is a book that I love, top notch. It's just so good. And if this book is anywhere as good as that, I think that it might be a favorite of the year. Circe. I read The Song of Achilles at the beginning of 2022, and to date, it's still one of the TikTok books that I find to be the weirdest in terms of its like likelihood to go viral. It is very literary, very slow-paced, pensive, just things that I feel would burn something off of being successful on a platform like that kind of is about instant gratification, which is fine, by the way. Like, I like a lot of the more stereotypical TikTok books. So yeah, I was surprised that it was as popular as it was, but honestly, like, whatever, I don't really care. I'm glad it got the acclaim that it did because I think that it is just a truly beautiful story. I sobbed like a little baby bird. I'd never even read the Iliad, so I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, it was all new to me, which is a statement on something, but I also feel really increased my enjoyment of the book for it all to be such a surprise. Like, it made it all the more emotionally hard-hitting. And this is Madeline Miller's other book, and I've been meaning to get around to it ever since I finished The Song of Achilles. Once again, like a year and a half ago. And it's a modernized retelling of a different part of mythology, this time of the story of Circe and her island, and all of the different mythological figures that she runs into during her life. I've heard this is less sad and poignant and more kind of like resilience and girl boss, but not in a derogatory way vibes. I don't know how to make that sound like a compliment, but I've heard it as a compliment. And yeah, we'll see if that description tracks. I feel like it'd be a little bit criminal if I didn't get around to this year, considering it's been so long. So consider it to be a priority on the Savage side. So if you didn't know, Tiffany McDaniel wrote Betty. Need I say more? I don't need to say more, actually, because I've already talked about that book in 2 other videos, and I'll probably talk about it in another 10 in the next 2 years. I'm obsessed with it, okay? Everybody should read it. It's my favorite book so far this year. And this is that author's newest release, and it's a story that's inspired by the real-life murders of the Chillicothe Six. I might be mispronouncing that, I'm not sure, but it's a town in rural Ohio. And this book follows 2 twin sisters who are fraught with generational trauma. Just a Tiffany McDaniel classic. And they find themselves potentially being in danger of becoming the next victims of this killer that's in their area. I was ravaged by Betty, like I was destroyed. It was basically all that I thought about for a solid week after I read it. I had no tears left to cry. Like, that's not an exaggeration. I don't do that here. And I have been giving it some time as a result before I dive into her other work because I anticipate it to be just as emotional as Betty was for me. But I'm really excited for this. As weird as it is to say that I'm excited for something that will probably beat my soul into a fine pulp by the time that I'm finished reading it, I am. And I think that it's going to be great. Project Hail Mary. The original Red Rising trilogy activated a long dormant part of my soul that just knows that I could become a science fiction girly with enough time and care. And I just feel like this is the logical next step. This is a book about an astronaut who's the sole survivor of some kind of like terrible space accident. And he's having some really serious memory problems. So he doesn't remember what the fuck is happening or why he's out there or really anything about his current situation. But for whatever reason that he can't figure out, his mission is just absolutely vital for the continued survival of humanity. And to my knowledge, this book is just him trying to find out what's going on and save the day and just also survive himself in this crazy situation. This book is like universally acclaimed to my knowledge. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a negative review of this book in the wild before. I don't think that's happened. I've heard only really good things. Still, this has been on my bookshelf for like an embarrassing amount of time, probably over 2 years. So shame on me for that, but you know what? We're trying. Happy place. Me personally, I'm kind of offended that Emily Henry books are hardcover now. It's just not very rom-com of her team. Honestly, good for her as an individual, you know, like get your bag. Who am I to judge? I'm glad that you can sell like a zillion copies of every book that you write. It probably means that you're gonna be writing more books. I'm just petty and kind of mad that now the books that I own by her will never match again. Like the spines will be a different size unless I wait a year to buy the paperback. It's just a small thing that will cause me distress, I think, forever now. Anyways, I conned my poor mother into buying me a copy of this to read with her. So I think we're gonna do some kind of like cute mother-daughter reading moment just at some point, you know, who's to say when? Nobody knows. Like the majority of other people out there, I love Emily Henry books. I'm a book lover stan for life. And I've heard a lot more mixed reviews on this one than I have on her others. But honestly, at this point, I feel like even a mid Emily Henry book is going to be better than the average romance novel that I'd be reading otherwise. So I still think that I'm going to really like this, even if it doesn't end up being my favorite. This book is her take on a second chance, almost fake dating vibes romance, when a long-term couple that broke up like months prior has to pretend to still be together in order to not ruin their longtime group of friends' last ever vacation at the place where they've been going for years, which I do think sounds cute, you know? Like, I love a small coastal town moment. But honestly, this could be about anything and I'd still read it, you know? Emily's just like that for me. Pachinko. This is a historical fiction family saga that follows 4 generations of a Korean family. And because it's so sweeping, I feel like it's kind of a hard book to describe in a way that sounds interesting, especially when I haven't actually read it. But I really loved Homegoing when I read it last year, and I vowed after that to read a lot more family sagas, and I completely failed myself. I don't think I've read a single one. The best intentions, you know? But in addition to being a family saga, this is also a good friend's recommendation, and I trust his taste very much. So I think that I'm going to like this once I have like the mental strength to sit down, since it is 500 pages. Also on the back, apparently this is Roxane Gay's favorite book of the year, whichever year it came out. That woman is one of my like all-time role models. I absolutely love her and I would trust her with my life. So that's another point. I didn't even know that this book had in its favor until I was talking about it right here with you right now. So look at that. Young Jane Young. And last on the list, though I will hopefully read many more books than this before the end of the year. I want to leave some spaces open. We have Young Jane Young by Gabrielle Zevin, with an asterisk that I also want to read every other book by Gabrielle Zevin, but I don't know what kind of timeline that will be on. Currently, this is my only unread book by her that I own, and I barely know what this is about. Honestly, I don't even really care. I just know that Gabrielle Zevin wrote my favorite book of all time, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and I am a very loyal woman. I just need in my soul to make it through everything that she's ever written. I feel like I owe that to her after what she made me feel. I also really liked The Storied Life of AJ Fikry. That's the only other book that I've read by her so far. It's kind of like a shorter, warmer toned, quirky bookstore version of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and it was really great, and I'm excited to read everything else by her forever now, starting with this. The back gives me the impression that this book is about a misogynistic sex scandal that kind of erupts around a woman who is running for office for the first time, and just how a bunch of people deal with that, and presumably how it gets resolved, which honestly sounds really cool. But I don't know, like Gabrielle could write an entire novel about paint drying or like NASCAR and I would still read it. I will be loyal to her forever, okay? Like, I trust her with my life. And those are the books. Disclaimer, I make no actual promises that I will succeed in reading all of these. I know better than that. I will not commit to anything at this time, okay? Like, if somebody tells me to do something, including if that somebody is myself and the thing is important or something that I want to do, suddenly the idea of doing that thing will become like viscerally disgusting. So non-committal is the way. Consider these to be more like a vision board for my fall, okay? And just root for me during this trying time. Just like I hope that you know that I'm rooting for you out there, okay? Wherever you are, whatever you're going through right now, just know that you're not alone, okay? Like, you have at least one girl with a really fun, cool mocktail of mental disorders who is painstakingly wading forward through this difficult time right alongside you. And we're gonna make it this fall, okay? We're gonna kill the game. The game will be destroyed, never to be seen again, and we're gonna do it together. Okay, and with that, I love you guys. Please do the liking, commenting, subscribing thing. It really helps me out. And that's it. I don't have anything else to say. Bye!